Hello, everybody. My name is Trent Syverson. I live in Seattle, Washington, which has been my home my entire life. I've been married to my wife, Heather, for 12 years, and we have two awesome kids, my daughter, Clara, who is 7, and my son, Jesse, who is 5. I currently serve as the lead pastor at North Seattle Church, which is located in my neighborhood about a half mile from my house. I'm drawn to this course because I've always felt a call to bring hope, healing, and compassion to urban contexts. I attended Seattle Pacific University and loved the global and urban development program there that I was a part of, which inspired me for the ministry I'm a part of today. Our church runs our building like a community center. My first job at this church 13 years ago was opening a coffee shop out of our building to serve the neighborhood. We've expanded our community center to offer several programs to people on the margins. We're located a few blocks from 125th and Aurora Ave, which is one of the spots that suffers the most in our city from issues of poverty, homelessness, and human trafficking. We also run a free health clinic out of our building that serves immigrants and refugees from all around the world that are experiencing a loss of place and home. And even the elementary school that my kids go to 3 blocks down the road from our church is a Title I school, and statistically about 1 in 5 of those students is currently experiencing homelessness. And so I'm drawn to this course because of the realities of homelessness, poverty, and the fragmentation that surrounds the context of our church, and how to continue to engage in a ministry of compassion. There's several things that have shaped my understanding of place, land, and home, and I'll touch on a couple here briefly. The first is the church that I currently serve in. I began attending in high school, and the neighborhood I live in, I moved into when I was 4 years old. So I've lived here my entire life. I live 3 blocks from my old high school, and I told God I would go anywhere except for this church, and now I've been serving in this church for over a decade. The longer I stay, the more power I see in the value of rooting in place over a long period of time, because it takes a long time to plant, cultivate, and grow something of value. The other thing that shaped my understanding of place and home is the church that I was a part of growing up, that my family attended, was deeply connected to Union Gospel Mission and Operation Night Watch. It's an organization that would drive around the city picking up people that were living on the streets and bring them to safe shelters. My church was one of those shelters. People needed a roof over their head, but more than that, they were integrated into the life of our church for community dinners, for worship, and other events. And so home was connected to their sense of belonging with us. Reflecting on Jeremiah 29 really reinforced to me our call to seek the peace of our city and our neighbors, to bring shalom, to bring wholeness, harmony, and healing to what is broken. It's a call for the flourishing of the context we're in, which is God's heart. What was lost in the Garden of Eden, he longs to restore, and he wants to partner with us to do that. I love the language that Jeremiah uses when he speaks of building houses and planting gardens. These are things that take time, that take planning and development. Cultivation of a garden, it takes planting, watering, tending, cultivating, growing, and eventually producing. It happens over time and through seasons. And so Jeremiah is speaking to a generational vision for place. Gardening, marrying and having children, and seeking the prosperity of the city. From the beginning of the story of God, he's planted people in a specific place, like we learned this week in the Garden of Eden, with a call to steward and cultivate that context, which is really reaffirmed in Jeremiah's words here. In Race and Place, author David Leong speaks to place and the idea of mission as urban gardening, and he says, "Too often I've seen well-intentioned people show up in my neighborhood, drawn to its diverse and vibrant multiculturalism, saying all the right things about how much place matters to God and God's mission. Yet when the fruit doesn't show up on schedule, or when the unexpected crop of apples yields oranges, the garden's abandoned or neglected for so-called greener pastures. But roots take time to grow. The best gardens are nurtured over many seasons, some with a fruitful harvest and some with a less desirable crop. In my own successes and failures at putting down good, healthy roots in a particular place, I've learned that gardening is a group activity, not with the work of a talented or charismatic individual with a green thumb. We're called to root, cultivate places like a garden, to seek shalom and prosperity, particularly in contexts where people are at risk and uprooted from home and place." David Leong ends his chapter with this question, and I think it's a good question for us all. If your neighborhood were an urban garden, how would you characterize the fruit being born there? As you water your neighborhood, is it nurturing the local soil as it should? I think that's just a great question for us all.